The look on Patricia Simmons' face when those two veterans rolled out of my garage in their custom wheelchairs. That image, I swear, is burned into my memory forever. She just stood there right on the edge of my driveway, HOA complaint letter dangling from her fingers, mouth open so wide you could have driven a truck through it. I guess the universe finally decided to return the favor because that letter she'd been waving around like a sword drifted down into a muddy puddle, and there she was, the self-appointed queen of Maple Ridge Estates, absolutely speechless for once in her life. 3 years of harassment, and for the first time, Patricia had not a single thing to say. But let me back up a sec. My name's Robert Anderson, and after my wife Emily passed, I moved here looking for a little peace, though peace and Maple Ridge, turns out, don't always go together. The house was nothing fancy, a step down from what we had before, but I needed that 3-car garage more than anything. See, after 35 years of designing high-end machinery for a living, I'd retired with hands that always needed something to fix, and a heart with too much time to miss my wife. I guess that's why when my brother Danny came back from Afghanistan missing his left leg and fighting a government-issued wheelchair built for someone half his size, I didn't think twice. If I could design aerospace parts, I could build him a real chair, something that actually worked for him. That first chair changed more than just Danny's life. Word spread fast through the whole veteran community, actually. And it turns out when you help one vet, you're on the hook for a lot more. Suddenly, my quiet little garage became a second home for people who'd lost more than anyone ever should, and I spent my days sketching, welding, fitting, and sometimes just listening. All-terrain wheels for the guy who still wanted to fish. Arm supports for the young woman who wanted to paint again. Custom controls for people whose hands wouldn't cooperate but whose spirits sure as hell would. It's hard to describe what that kind of work gives you. Every single chair was a puzzle and a promise, a little bit of independence for somebody who'd earned it. That work became my anchor. The whir of the drill press, the gentle rhythm of the CNC machine. I splurged my retirement money on. If you walked by during business hours, you'd hear the low music of metalwork, but it never lasted past 5, and not a single neighbor ever complained. Not at first. Enter Patricia Simmons. If there's a rulebook, Patricia's read it and made 3 more copies, color-coded and laminated. She ruled Maple Ridge Estates like it was her own little kingdom, measuring grass with a ruler, snapping pictures if your trash can lingered on the curb for more than 5 minutes after pickup. Her husband, Harold, was more or less a background prop, always nodding, never speaking. The first time Patricia really locked eyes on my operation was a Tuesday afternoon. I was working on a new armrest for a young Marine kid, couldn't have been older than 24 when Patricia banged on the garage door like the place was on fire. She was decked out in her signature pink velour tracksuit, clutching a clipboard, lips pinched like she'd sucked a lemon. Without so much as a hello, she announced she'd gotten multiple noise complaints about my business. I asked who complained. Of course, she said that was confidential, said my constant mechanical racket and all those delivery trucks were ruining the neighborhood's tranquility. She shoved a formal HOA warning at me, 72 hours to stop, or I'd face fines. I tried to explain, told her I wasn't running a business. I was building these chairs for free, using my own money and donated materials. But Patricia was having none of it. According to her, no commercial activity means no activity, period. Didn't matter that I wasn't charging a dime. In her mind, I was some sort of criminal mastermind plotting to bring down property values with a few quiet afternoons of aluminum welding. I kept my cool, at least on the outside. What really stung was her complete lack of curiosity. She didn't want to know who I was helping or why I did it. She just wanted her version of order, her rules, her way. That night I called Danny, told him the whole story, and he just laughed. Invite her over, he said. Let her see what you're really doing. I knew he meant well, but Patricia wasn't the type for a change of heart. Still, the next day I marched down to her perfect lawn and rang the doorbell. She opened the door, different velour suit, same cold glare. Before I could say 2 words, she told me the matter was already being escalated to the board. But for form's sake, she said there'd be a special meeting where I could plead my case. 5 days. Fine by me. I spent the next 3 days prepping. Pulled every permit for my garage mods. measured decibel levels well below the city limit, gathered testimonials, photos, even a letter from the county confirming charitable work wasn't a business. But Patricia worked the neighborhood painting me as some industrial villain who'd destroy our community. She got 2 other board members on her side, Richard Hoffman and Janet Torres, neither of whom I'd ever seen outside their front doors. The night before the big meeting, I made a call that changed everything. My buddy Colonel James Mitchell, retired Army head of the local veterans group. I told him what was happening. He said, "Don't worry, Robert, we'll be there." The next day, the HOA meeting room looked like a town hall from the movies, standing room only packed with vets in every kind of wheelchair you could imagine, families squeezed shoulder to shoulder, even some reporters with those big news cameras. Patricia tried to call it a closed session, but the crowd wasn't having it. By law, HOA meetings are public. She was losing control, and you could see the panic behind her eyes. The next hour was one for the history books. One by one, veterans came to the mic. Staff Sergeant Williams, paralyzed but now able to shoot hoops with his boys, Maria Santos Burns, and all back to work as a graphic designer thanks to her custom controls. Old Franklin Boyd, Vietnam vet, said my chair let him leave his apartment for the first time in 2 years. He looked Patricia dead in the eye and asked how she slept at night. You could feel the energy shift. The board members who'd stood with Patricia started sliding their chairs back, not wanting to catch any fallout. Then here's the twist. A state representative walked in. Michael Davidson, clean suit, big presence. He told everyone he'd visited my workshop himself and saw the impact, announced he was drafting legislation to protect folks like me from HOA overreach. The room just about exploded. Patricia's voice cracked when she tried to bring things back to proper procedure. Someone in the back yelled, "What's more important, rules or people?" She had no answer. Finally, they called the vote. Richard Hoffman made a motion to drop all charges against me. Janet Torres seconded so fast you'd think her seat was on fire. Patricia was the lone no, but the show wasn't over. A lawyer stood up, said he specialized in HOA abuse, and announced a formal complaint against Patricia, complete with affidavits from half the block. He said a recall petition would go out that night. You ever see karma happen in real time? Because the very next day, our street was crawling with reporters. Wheelchair. Karen, the internet, called her. Donations for my workshop poured in $50,000 in 2 days. Patricia tried a press interview, big mistake. She choked when they asked why she'd target a veteran charity. Clip went viral, of course. 3 days later, the board called an emergency session. This time, Patricia was in the audience. Richard ran the meeting, and they booted her out with a unanimous vote. They even wrote a public apology to me and all the veterans. My garage officially recognized as a protected community facility. Davidson fast-tracked an ordinance to keep folks like Patricia from pulling that stunt again. But it didn't stop there. Patricia's employer dumped her hard, put out a statement saying her views didn't reflect the company. By the end of the week, she was out of a job. Her husband started moving boxes into a U-Haul. Word was she got served divorce papers. And then just when you think it couldn't get worse, that lawyer announced a class action suit, 17 neighbors joining in damages up past $200,000. I saw Patricia one last time. She was standing on her front lawn watching the movers pack up what was left of her perfect life. For a second, I saw something like regret in her eyes, maybe even a little fear. Then a sheriff's deputy pulled up, handed her the lawsuit papers, over $230,000 in damages. She fell to her knees, sobbing that her life was ruined over some stupid wheelchairs. But it wasn't just about the wheelchairs, and everybody knew it. It was about the line between right and wrong, about what a community owes the people who gave everything for it, and about how far you go to protect your peace. The funny thing is, the neighborhood feels a little warmer now, more like a place worth fighting for. And Patricia, well, somewhere out there, she's probably telling herself she was just enforcing the rules. So what do you think, was justice served, or did we go too far? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear where you stand on community fairness and how you'd handle a wheelchair Karen on your block.